it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Man, my auntie passed last night. This is a sad life, I'm trying to get my cash.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. I am back with a prophetic divination. If you're new to this channel, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. But today we're going to be talking about the inception points of the Federal Reserve System that's conducive to an economic crash to implement a digital slave system that's facilitated by Babylonian money magic that's controlled by cryptoterrestrials to engineer a cyber pandemic where you have 10 days of darkness that's activated by an electromagnetic post-efficiency with the false perception of World War III, right? So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get your notes out because we're going to cover a lot of information tonight. Because in order to understand everything intuitively, you have to understand that the past works in symbiotic connection with the future, right? So when you're talking about this cyber pandemic, because a lot of people don't have an intuitive understanding about how this cyber pandemic is going to play out on how you transition into a digital currency system, right? So the round table, which is basically your personification of the black nobility who control the pyramid of manipulation on the planet from secret societies. So everything has to be facilitated under a totalitarian feudalistic technocracy to where you merge humans with cybernetics, which is the foundation of transhumanism, right? Because everything wants to be based on the algorithm of the matrix system that's connected to the electrical grid, right? So now when you're talking about this round table of these banksters, because these banksters are basically proxies for the Freemasonic order in these secret societies. So you got the Trilateral Commission, right? And then you got the Council on Foreign Relations. Then you have the United Nations, then you have the Bilderberg Group, and then you have the Club of Rome, and then you also have the Royal Institute of International Affairs, right? And they control the pyramid of manipulation through a hierarchy of knowledge, of esoteric knowledge that everybody is not privy to because we stuck on a low vibrational frequency by keeping us distracted with trivial and mundane topics of the planet, right? So to where we have a veneration for this concept of money, right? And it's all being controlled by banking, business, military policies, education, the media, artificial intelligence. Hold on. Artificial intelligence agencies, and you also have illegal drugs and organized crime, right? So these are all the things that basically galvanize the monetary system to where you have this planet working in symbiotic connection of their matrix system, right? So now when you're talking about Babylonian blood magic, you have to understand the inception points of where this fiat currency system derived from. So the Bank of Rome was basically implemented by the Vatican City, which was founded in 45 AC, right? So that is basically, they got their concepts and their edification of the fiat currency system from Babylonian money magic, which is the Babylonian woe, which is basically facilitated by the slavery system, usury, and the economic Darwinism, right? So all these things is based on the fact that you living in an artificial caste system that's based on the corporate legal fiction of the de facto corporation that's controlled by the Khazarians, who come from these Babylonian empires that's also controlled by the Vatican today, right? So the prophetic definition of the usury is basically an interest of, hold on, this damn thing is controlled by the usury of any interest of money and morphs into the interest of bonds. This cash is like the artificial ramping of the stock or the value of the real estate, establish artificial wealth, and gaming life support system through debt and trickery. Because, like I told you, everything that's connected to democracy is also connected to Rome. Everything connected to Rome came from the Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire was galvanized by the Canaanite, who have the veneration of the jealous god Enlil. So their money system is based on the fact if you worship the money, you worship their god, right? Who was Moloch, who was the son of Enlil, right? Because we're going to get into that, because the Federal Reserve System is basically a proxy for Moloch, right? Because now when you talking about I think it says something about in God we trust in the money. So like I said, their God is basically predicated upon Luciferian principles that's connected to many different secret societies. So like I said, everything so the reason that you have in this, Silicon Valley, all these banks, everything, we're going through a transgressional process of going into a recession. So this is why you have, these banking dynasties is based on economic frauds, is based on monetary monopoly capitalism, which is the precursor to communism, and fascism, which is totalitarian feudalism, right? Which is controlled by secret societies and power politics and election frauds. So that's why, what I'm saying, that's why Donald Trump, he is going through this process of, they talking about they're going to lock him up. So that's why he put that incantation talking about protest, right? And that is basically a metaphysical codex for declaration, meaning that he wants the people to declare war on the system, right? Because he's trying to transgress the power of technology of the de facto corporation, which is based on democracy. He's trying to revert everything right back into a republic, right? So, meaning that the occultic systems and the associations of symbolism and the intelligence agencies and the war to crimes is also linked to, debt slavery, basically. So this is, the reason why the economic system is starting to fall, because everything is based on fraud, and the fraud system comes from democracy, which is demonic rulership. Already broke that down. So this is the grand deception that's taking place. So now, when you're looking at this pyramid of the power structure of the banking systems, who are basically Jesuits, who are basically proxies for the Freemasonic order, who work for the black nobility. So you got power, money, idolatry, Luciferianism, Satanism, the cabal. Then you have monetary capitalism, communism, Fabianism, and Marxism. And the bankings and the money groups and the secret societies, the political groups, the intelligence groups, the religious systems, and the education system basically works in symbiotic connection with the black nobility. So this is why the Vatican and the Zionist movement, the Mossad and the Rothschild dynasty, which is basically the inception of the bankster mafia, they are the ones who basically control the Jesuits, right? And they're also Jesuits as well, which is the cursed seed. They're not really the true people of the planet. They are the ones who stole our birthrights, and they stole our geographical landmass through false banking systems, false spiritual teachings, which is the monotheistic religion through the Vatican, because that's why Pope Clemens and Queen Isabella in 1468, they sent missionaries over here to usurp the land by trying to transmute the great majority of people connected to the geographical landmass of America, who are the real Native Americans, by converting us to Christianity, right? So all these secret societies are basically interconnected to the Pilgrim Society, which is a major power of brotherhoods or infiltrated fronts, right? Which is based on the Illuminati, Luciferianism bloodlines, and then which is also headed by the Rothschilds and the Rockefeller dynasties. And then you got the Masons, which is the mystic ancient shrine order of nobles, which is your so-called Knights of Templars, and then you got the Skull and Bone Society, who give the religious groups in the chart up here the 501c3 tax exemptions, right? And this is why, you know what I'm saying, you have a lot of politicians, then you have a lot of these public figures, you know, they funnel money through the I forgot what they call it, nonprofit organizations. They get 501c3s, right? This is basically connected to the faith based initiative programs, to where you have a charter to where you funnel in money to the plutocracy, who are the oligarchs of the banking system, right? So now you also have the Vatican Jesuits, right, who basically control the Bank of Rome, who also control the infrastructure system of the Vatican, that controls our birth certificates and our marriage certificates, which has a QSIP number, which I was telling you is basically Community Uniform Security Identification Procedure. And that identification procedure and that codex in itself is connected to fraud, right? So that's why, you know, everything they do is based on cycles. Everything is a looping. Everything is connected to the monetary system is based on a artificial construct of a looping program, right? So what I mean by that, you always have this concept of you have a pestilence, then you have an economic crash, and then you have a so-called war. So the same thing is actually taking place right now. So that's why, you know, you have rumors of war, you having rumors of another pandemic that's going to take place. All these things basically work in symbiotic connection. So if you understand what happened in the past, back when you're talking about the 1918 Spanish flu, that basically transgressed over into the 1929 stock market crash, and then you implement a new system of to revitalize the economic system. They transmuted us into humanoid real estate by giving us social security cards and social security numbers in 1935. So, like I said, when you have this digital slave system that's going to be implemented, that is going to be based on the construct of, you know, that is basically their way of revitalizing the system, but it's only going to work for a certain point of time before you have that gray solar flash that's going to take place. So now, when you go to this publication here, it says America's Moloch, the Federal Reserve, right? And you already know who Moloch is. He's basically the Semitic god who were to where the Canaanites, they sacrificed children to him to have economic divinity on the planet, right? So this is why you have names such as Nelson Aldrich, J.P. Morgan. These are all basically politicians and banksters that basically control everything. These are the conspirators who knew the public that the central banking system wasn't going to work. You know what I'm saying? Because everything is based on this a 6,000 year verification period, right? So now when you go to the bottom right here, it says war, 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 right? So this is the fundamental dynamic on how to revitalize the economic structure of America. So this is why you having the false perception of a war, right? So the best way in order to basically destabilize the country, you basically have to have a transgressional process. It's not going to be one of those things where we're going to be, you know, on fiat currency, you know, and then 2 weeks later, you know, they're going to introduce the digital currency system. It's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to shut down the electromagnetic power grid, right? And it's going to be based on an EMP attack. And I put out a video not too long ago talking about the black nobility, and there's a black nobility commercial how they shutting down basically the power grid. But that's what's going to happen. You're going to have 10 days of darkness, which is also acclimated to ancient theological context, because it talks about these in these spiritual teachings, right? Because they got to give you the information in the public domain. And it tells you in the 48 laws of power how they fund both sides of the war through a Hegelian dialectic principle in order to have a transmigrational process on to transmute into a different economic system, right? So this is what's going to happen, in my opinion. You're going to have, in order to introduce this new form of digital currency to the public, you're going to have a so-called World War III that's going to be taking place, right? And then it's going to be, they're going to say that China or Russia hit us with an EMP, which is basically an electromagnetic post efficiency. And then once that EMP happens, that's going to shut down everything in a certain geographical landmass, because you have to understand the diametrical difference between an EMP and a CME. A CME basically shuts down the electrical grid all around the planet. An EMP shuts down the power grid in a certain geographical location, right? So that's how it's going to introduce. But like I said, when you understand the concept of the United Nations and you understand crisis alliance, all these people work together. You know what I'm saying? Because they're trying to introduce a digital currency system. So with that being said, you also have the elite agenda has always, meant to grab the wealth of the whole world by playing with the masses. Like I said, they play with the masses through Hegelian dialectic, problem reaction solution, right? Which is controlled by the world's richest families, which is, your so-called Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Windsors, and they control, everything as far as like, your rabbis, your priests, your lawyers, and it's all based on Luciferian worship, right? I think I want to get into a video I want to show you guys. Because since we talking about, who controls everything, there's a company called BlackRock, and they have this veneration for the concept of the hexahedron cube of Saturn, because you understand that the Saturn and the moon works in symbiotic connection in order to galvanize and control the three-dimensional matrix system. And it's all being controlled by an economic forefront that's controlled by the black nobility, who gives the power to the Canaanites to keep us under economical servitude through economic disenfranchisement. I'm going to play the video.
Tiffany and Larry Fink hold such power. Why is it that you have not heard of them more? There is power in anonymity. If BlackRock is barely featured in print publications and news channels, it is because they want it to be so. If they wanted, they could feature every day. BlackRock currently owns 18% of Fox, 16% of CBS, and 13% of Comcast, which in turn owns NBC, MSNBC, and Sky. If any of those companies wanted to make a decision, they would have to also consult with BlackRock before doing so. The same is true for Google, a tech giant currently worth $853 billion. Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter are also not exempt, and neither is Disney. Thanks to their incredibly diverse investment portfolio in media alone, BlackRock essentially owns 90% of the world's media. If you don't know about them, it's because they don't want you to. Why? Owning a portion of the world doesn't come without its share of scandal or conflict. In 2020, BlackRock became the first foreign company to be allowed into China's mutual fund industry, which means they can now invest and own parts of Chinese companies, including ones that are blacklisted by the United States. One of the first investments made by BlackRock was in Hikvision, a security and communications firm that essentially makes facial recognition software for use by the Chinese government. But this money isn't just BlackRock's or Larry Fink's. It comes from pension funds and bank accounts of ordinary civilians who have unknowingly...
See, this is why a lot of people been getting their, their funds has been, being usurped from their bank accounts, right? Because they got to pay back that debt. So I'm going to keep the video going.
Money to BlackRock in the past. If we take into account BlackRock's ownership over Western media, banks, e-commerce stores, social media, food and beverages, and many, many more industries, it becomes evident that the company has a wealth of data on us. They may do with it what they please. TikTok's data harvest comparison to what BlackRock is capable of, given how they have everything from our bank account numbers to our personal tastes and preferences. As BlackRock's investment in China grows, so will China's influence on the world. And our personal data, which was hanging on a thread to begin with, will quickly end up in the...
So like I said, you see that they mentioned China. They try to give you this perception that China is going against us, but they really working with China. But what you got to understand is that BlackRock is also the company that controls the World Economic Forum, right? And who is the World Economic Forum? Who is that controlled by? Right? So now when you go to this World Economic Forum publication, it's controlled by the founder of Klaus Schwab, right? So now when you go to his name, because everything is based on a globalist agenda, right? Everything is based on a globalist agenda, meaning that they want to galvanize the resources and put people in a state of destabilization, right? And his influencer was Henry Kissinger. Now, this is important. You got to get this book right here called White House Years by Henry Kissinger. You see how thick this book is. A Freemason gave me this book. He heard me talking about, he was overhearing my conversation at a coffee shop here in town. And he came up to me and he said he think I should have his book. He went to his car and gave me this book. But what I'm saying is Henry Kissinger, back in 1975, he put out the Kissinger Report, which is the National Memorandum 200, right? And the National Memorandum 200 is basically talking about a globalist agenda that's basically got to be taking place, on how he said that the human population is basically at unstable heights, meaning that there has to be a depopulation program that has to be taking place. So now when you go to the World Economic Forum and the Global Risk Report in 2023, it talks about all the things that's going to be taking place all the way from 2023 to 2030, which is why I said that 2023 is basically the 7-year tribulation period, right? And they also said it was inevitable that we're going to have a cyber pandemic that's going to be taking place, where you're going to have 10 days of darkness, right? So when you have that 10 days of darkness, then once the system is back revitalized, then that's when they can introduce the new digital currency system, because the World Economic Forum is being controlled by BlackRock. BlackRock is the black nobility who is the unseen hand. And I'm going to show you a video of them shutting off the power grid. I got to get it Bluetooth to my, because I forgot to send it. So like I said, when you look at this right here, it talks about how the energy to become weaponized by the war in Ukraine, and talks about inflation. It talks about everything. If you go to the World Economic Forum and read their 98-page manuscript, it talks about, the polarization of food and energy and supplies, and geopolitical confrontation, and catastrophes that's going to be taking place. You really got to go read it, because they put everything out in the public domain, but it's up to you to have the mental fortitude to tap into the knowledge. They putting it all out there. They telling you what's going to happen. So now, like I said, it's inevitable that we're going to have a power grid shutdown. So I got this video. I put it on my TikTok before, but I'm gonna let you guys see it, and then I'm gonna put it also. I'm gonna upload it to my YouTube channel so everybody can, galvanize this video for themselves.
There are many Izinyoka among us these days. Izinyoka that steal cables, cutting the power supply. Izinyoka that make illegal connections. Selling stolen cables. They are everywhere. So help ESCOM put these Izinyoka where they deserve to be, in a hole. Don't take the law into your own hands. Call the ESCOM crime line. Confidentiality guaranteed.
like I said, man, even though this is a commercial, but they telling you right in your face. Because I already broke down that black nobility, uh, who are basically black draconians, you know what I'm saying, that's connected to the blood of the jealous god Enlil. I already broke that down, right? So now, like I said, that's the way they're gonna introduce everything. They're gonna introduce everything from when you have 10 days of darkness. Then that's when that's when the whole economic system is gonna fall in totality. And then that's where they're gonna transgress into a technocracy, which is transhumanism by merging humans with cybernetics, right? That's the plan. They want the digital currency system. But like I said, it's not going to be one of those things where you're going to be, oh, 2 weeks later, 2 more weeks, you better get rid of your cash. You better get rid of your cash in 2 weeks because we're going to a digital currency system. You better hurry up and spend all your paper dollars. It's not going to happen like that. The way it's going to happen is the whole grid is going to shut down, and then they're going to introduce a totalitarian feudalistic society that's based on communism under a digital currency system that makes you have a social credit score. Right? So this is economic Darwinism from a futuristic standpoint. Right? So now, where are we at? So like I said, you got to understand how everything happens in cycles. So when this pyramid actually collapses, you have to understand that we're going to be in a different world for a short period of time, right before you have that great solar flash that's going to be taking place. So just kind of like the same thing that happened in 1929 when you had the stock market crash. That's when they transmuted everybody into humanoid real estate in 1935. So, but that's because, you know what I'm saying, the money lost its gold standard, right? So now this, like I said, it's based on a concept of a New World Order principle, right? And the New World Order principle is, basically predicated upon the fact that, all this stuff is works in symbiotic connection with Masonry, which is basically biblical Satanism, because if you worship the money, you worship their God, right? And as like I said, it's based on Illuminism, humanism, a secular religion that's basically a transition to Satanism, right? For the tolerance of all except God. So like I said, everything is based on the Hegelian dialectic principle, because it's gonna be something that takes place on this planet. Because like as you have Pluto and Aquarius, like I said, that is the energy to where everything in the system, has to face some type of judgment in order to have a transitional process, right? So kind of like what happened on September 11th, right? It's going to be an event that's going to be taking place, whether it's the 10 days of darkness when you have a cyber pandemic, or it's going to be one of those things where something big is going to happen to where this whole economic system is going to shut down in totality. Something big is going to happen. So that's how, in order to introduce you to a different economic forefront, you have to have this concept of a cataclysm that's going to take place. Then that's when you can implement a so-called war, right? Because like I said, their form of reform is based on a fictitious concept of revolution. Now, what you got to understand is who controls these banksters, who controls the ADL, who controls the JINSA, who controls all these, these branches of the World Economic Forum, who controls all these, the Jesuits and all that. It's the banksters, and the banksters are basically, are controlled by black nobility, right? They're the ones that's being told to shut down the grid system so they can usher in this this Babylonian money magic that's based on a digital slave system, right? That's what it's based on. But yeah, you also got to get this book called James Alexander, The Hidden History of Money, right? Because it talks about how, the inception points of how money really started, because there's many different ways that, you could tell that the United States is a corporation. You got the 1913 Federal Reserve Act that basically implemented the 27 CFR 72.11, which is connected to the Uniform Commercial Code, Title 18, Section 3002, that tells you that the United States is a corporation, and the corporation is controlled by the money system, and the money system is under a fiat system that's controlled by Social Security and things of that nature. So since everything is based on an artificial construct, you can't bring that type of energy into the higher dimensions. These are three-dimensional constructs that was created by the bloodline that needed a drop of black blood, right? So this, like I said, you can't bring this type of energy. You can't bring, a corporation that's ran by bank lords into the fourth dimension, right? Because everything in the fourth dimension works in symbiotic connection with a sun cycle. A sun cycle is galvanized by a republic, and a republic is galvanized by a matriarch. So the money system has to fall. It's inevitable. And I told you it's going to fall when you have the grid system is going to shut down. Right? So Zionism, Illuminism, and the black nobility are the ones who control the infrastructure of the fallacy of fiat currency within the de facto corporation. Right? So that's why it tells you right here in the Jewish Encyclopedia in 1925, volume 5, page 41 says they are actually Edomites, and the Edom means red, right? So that's also connected to the Byzantine Empire near the Khazarian Kingdom, right? So this is why Turkey is facing a lot of judgment, because it tells you right here that the Khazars were basically the people of Turkish stock. Those are the people of the same bloodline that came over here and stole your birthright. So like I said, it's not a coincidence that Turkey was on the 33rd parallel and 33,000 people got killed in that earthquake. That was judgment. Right? And all this stuff is based on the main source of income, which is foreign trade of slaves, which is controlled by the military power and tax collection and goldsmiths and things of that nature, right? So like I said, this all works in symbiotic connection to, if you pay attention to my videos, they're basically like a timeline of everything that's going on, of what happened in the past and what's happening in the future right now. Because I talked about the Khazarian Mafia when I put up that chart of all the secret societies that was connected to the Canaanites, who are also connected to the Edomites. Hold on. I got one more video to show you. Actually, I got a few more videos to show you.
To matches up with Patel Patriot with devolution. Trump, he was being interviewed by Ari on a radio station, and he asked him a question about 2024. Now remember, there can't be a 2024 unless we fix the 2020 elections. Yes, there's going to be other elections.
Like, this is my opinion. I think there's going to, like, the economic crash in itself is going to happen when right before the elections, because they're going to basically try to shut down the election system, because right before when Trump is going to try to run, they're going to basically try to mess up the ballots and things of that nature. So if there probably won't be an election if you have a cyber pandemic that's going to take place, because when you have that process taking place, as the planet is in a state of destabilization due to the manipulation of water and food and many different resources, I think this is the same time where you're going to have the food shortage is going to be activated. And then it's when you can activate FEMA, and then it's when you can activate the military, because it's going to be pandemonium all over the planet during that time. So, in my opinion, I think, right before the election or during the process of the election is when you're going to have this, this system is going to shut down. Because, like I said, the World Economic Forum said verbatim that it's inevitable, it has to take place.
In the middle of all of this. But remember, everyone needs to vote because we need to prove the cheating. It has to be seen. But
let me interject again. They're not going to let you be able to prove the cheating because the grid's going to go down. I'm going to keep it going.
A question about, do you think you're going to be running? Do you have a good running mate? And Trump's response is very, very interesting. Take a listen.
As well. Looking forward to 2024, I know there's a question you always get asked, and I know that you can't answer it because of campaign finance laws and such, so I'm going to phrase it a little differently, which is, in 2024, is there anybody in the Republican Party you think would make a good running mate if you decide to run again, or a Republican candidate you think that would have your support if you decided not to run again?
Both answers, I think, yes. Yeah, I think that I have some fantastic people that would do it and like to do it and would be good. And, I'm going to make a decision. But I have to tell you, maybe I'm not going to have to worry about the second question so much because I think you're going to be happy. We're going to see. We're going to see. But I think you'd be happy. It's amazing how time flies. Here we are already in the first cycle. The first year is almost up. When it started at 4 years, I said, we have to wait 4 years. And you talk about all the things that took place in this election, how horrible it was. And so you said, maybe we cut it down. But think of it, already a year is up, almost. And time flies, Ari. Time flies. I think you'll be very happy. I know you well. I know.
So if you didn't hear it, Trump said, maybe I'm not going to have to worry about the second question so much. All the horrible things that took place in this election. You mean we have to wait 4 years, he says? He goes, no. Maybe we cut it down, which means something else is about to happen way before 2024. Remember, Trump has everything in motion. Remember,
like I said, something is going to happen. Something has to take place because this digital currency system, they have to use it. They need it for these 15-minute smart cities, like I was talking about in my last video. I don't know what happened right there, but they try to shut me down. But anyhow, there's a video I want to show you talking about the 10 days of darkness.
In 2008, we got this creepy message from the Queen. And it was the first time I ever heard of Operation London Bridge. It's basically the secret plan that triggers 27 events, how to take care of when the Queen passes and things and the events that happen afterwards. And I can link up this article, but number 17 happened to be Prince Charles becomes king. So what do we have?
Mind you, this video came out in I think it's 2018. This video had came out. But that was the transitional process. Prince Charles ended up being the king after she died. Well, she been dead for a while, but they, put her death in the public domain last year. Yeah. Because what you got to understand is the Queen is basically the foundation of the economical system, right? Because they are the ones who they're basically America is basically a British colony. They are the ones who basically control everything as far as the economic infrastructure over here in the geographical landmass of America. So when she died, this is kind of like a metaphysical chess game. So when you kill the Queen, right? When you take out the Queen, you that basically destabilizes their system to where they can introduce a different system.
Today's news. Well, the Queen is checking out. She's in her final days. And what do we have? We have a secret 10-day funeral. It's called Operation London Bridge. So there's different events that are going to happen. D1, by the way, D2, D3, D5, and so on.
But I wanted to show you that video. So now when you look at this publication right here by the World Economic Forum, because I told you the World Economic Forum, it says electricity grids are at risk from cyber attack. So you're going to have a cyber pandemic. They've been putting it out since 2018. So once that happens, that is going to where they're going to introduce the digital currency system, because it's basically going to shut down the whole economic infrastructure, right? So they've been putting everything out in the public domain. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's one of those things where you have to deviate from, the monetary system. I wouldn't say in totality, but you can't have a veneration for something that's based on fraud because it's on its way out. Because if you acclimate yourself to the money system, you're gonna fall when the system falls, right? So get this video out there. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Because it's very imperative to understand that you have to understand the delineation between an EMP and a CME. Because when you have an EMP, that is basically going to be activated by world governments to usher in a world governmental system, whether it's based on religion, whether it's based on a new monetary system, right? Everything is based on your so-called New World Order. So now, like I said, the CME is something that's happening from the cosmos, right? Which is your personification of God. So when you got the G, which is personification of gamma radiation, the O is the personification of Omicron radiation. Then the D is also the personification of delta radiation. And all those radiations amalgamated together, these are the higher dimensional energies that basically shuts down the planet when everybody gets acclimated to a digital system. And once that digital system happens, that's when the people who took your so-called mark of the beast, the draconian DNA, when you have these energies coming in, that's when you're going to have that gray solar flash that's going to happen. So this is, that's why they say by 2029, at least 75% of the population could be decimated. And the only way to do that is through the infiltration of biochemical warfare, right? But to where they, you have a veneration for their concepts of holistic practices and things of that nature, or fictitious holistic practices, because everything they do is based on fraud, and that all the stuff that's based on fraud and manipulation and destabilization, it all comes from the left, which is the deep state Democrats, which is the foundation of Luciferianism and demonic rulership. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys for watching. Get this video out there, share this video to where, to where people can prepare and have, many different intrinsic resources to combat the 10-day cyber attack that's going to be taking place in between now and 2024, 2025. Thanks for watching. End of transmission.